So my name's Dan. Welcome to the Mersey Video Viva Club. Thank you for attending. This is the third round of the Video Viva Club that we've done, and by far the biggest that we've done. So we've gotten over 150 people already to sign up, which is absolutely excellent. Essentially, the faculty have got a number of roles. What they're going to be doing today, myself, I'm going to be responsible for hosting the meeting and making sure that the meeting runs nice and smoothly. Please bear with me. Sometimes it's a little bit trickier than I'd like it to be. In terms of the other co-hosts, they'll be moving around the meeting rooms. Their aim really is to provide you with some useful feedback. So if you're a member and you're being asked questions, we'd like to try and pick up on your exam technique. Our hope is that by taking part in the Viva Club, we can help you to improve your own technique and certainly optimize it so you can be the best you can be for when you're due to take your exam. They also aim to provide feedback on how to ask questions. I think it's very difficult when you first start out to know how the examiners are going to ask questions in the exam. So if maybe your style is a little bit different to what we'd expect in the exam, the faculty will just give you some guidance on how to ask the questions to match the exam style. And then really the other thing is just to optimize your performance, a little bit about the exam in general. Any questions that you might have, I'm sure we can answer about the exam style. One thing to bear in mind, some of our faculty may be able to answer some specific knowledge-based questions that you have. However, some may well have not done their primary FRCA for a little while and might not be revising for their final, and so may well not have all of the details at the forefront of their knowledge. And please bear that in mind if we can't answer a question, though I'm sure most of us will try and get back to you as best we can if you do ask us a question that we're not sure about. So a bit of a history of the Viva Club really. We started this last year in September. This is our third round. We've recently partnered with the Mersey School of Anaesthesia, and that has been excellent. So the concept then, put simply, what we aim to do after this very short introduction is to split you all into pairs. I've got a number of different types of member at the moment. We've got people who are actively participating. There are people who are passively observing, and there are people who are actively observing. If you are randomized to a pair of two actively participating members, you will essentially both act as an examiner and both act as a candidate. And this is the concept here. So we'll move you to your breakout rooms, one member, and you can decide between the two of you will act as an examiner and one will act as the candidate. The candidate will choose two domains by which they feel they need some practice, and then the examiner will pick 3 times 5-minute questions in each of those domains in the same format as the exam. This is why it's so important that you come with all 4 domains, sets of questions that are already prepared. So if you're the candidate, you won't know any more about what topics you're going to be getting apart from you will have said, I feel weak in physics and so I want 3 physics questions. That will be up to the examiner. We expect to have about 5 minutes in total. Some people prefer to do all of the feedback after the 6 questions. Some prefer to do it after the 3 questions. Some people prefer to do it after every 2 questions. It's entirely up to you in your pairs. Once you've done the 6 times 5-minute questions and you've had 5 minutes of feedback, you swap over and you repeat the same process. If you are an active participant and you have been randomized to an active observer, the active observer is going to act as the examiner for today. And that means that they will have come prepared with all 4 domains questions. And this will be really useful to you as the participant because this will simulate a whole exam. It is entirely up to you if you want to simulate a whole exam. And if you get tired, that's absolutely fine. Maybe you would still only want to do half. But the active observers have told me that they aren't yet ready to answer questions. So it will be up to you again in your breakout rooms if you want to do 4 times 3 times 5-minute questions. That will be up to the person who's being examined. The active participants will be expecting that. If you're a passive observer, what will happen is you will get randomized to a meeting room that already has either 2 active participants or an active participant and an active observer. So just to clarify, if it wasn't so clear, there are 2 types of observers. There are passive and active observers. Generally, those who are passive observers are those who aren't doing the exam this round. And unfortunately, we've had to make this change to the club because of the limitations that the RCOA have placed on people not being able to do the exam in November. The benefit of being a passive observer is that you can still get a feel for the exam. but you're not yet in the active phase of preparation. But you should try and participate in feedback for the members. And the reason for that is there are a couple of things that you can get done. So you can get a flavour for how questions are asked. You can get a flavour for what types of questions are asked in the Viva. You can start to look at different people's techniques and improve your own technique based on that. And you can also start to get an introduction to the exam in general. Contrast that to active observers. They're due to do the exam this round. At present, they're not quite ready to start actively participating, but they're nearly there. They're going to come prepared with questions, and they will act as the examiner throughout and be expected to give feedback to the members who are acting as candidates. I would advise you early on to start recording your breakout rooms. If you want to record your breakout rooms, just make sure that both participants are happy to be videoed and to be recorded. The reason for that is it allows you, if you've got recordings of every session you do, you can start to compare your performance now, and in a couple of weeks' time, when you're starting to get better, it'll provide some evidence of improvement. You'll see a difference, and I found that particularly motivating. It also allows you to start to analyze your technique. So, for example, if someone gives you some feedback that you weren't expecting, it would be reasonable then for you to look back at your technique at a later date and say, well, yeah, I accept that feedback now that I've rewatched it, or actually, that feedback potentially wasn't as useful as I was hoping, and I'm able to say that with confidence now. I've reflected on my technique. And it also provides quite a passive sort of beneficial revision resource. So as you will already know, given you've already done the MCQ, there are some days when can you be bothered revising? You just cannot get the motivation up. If that's the case, this is a nice, useful, passive resource that you can use to at least show that you're still doing your work. And a few people have asked me about links to resources and also links to resources that will help them to construct their questions. There are a couple of things that we provide. So as I mentioned before, Kirsty has been excellent and provided a load of free resources, and they are all on the Dropbox. You should all have access to the Dropbox. If you feel that you don't have access to the Dropbox, either send me an email or a private WhatsApp or catch me in the chat later on, and we'll be able to sort out getting you access. There have been a few emails now, but if anyone hasn't got it, it's a really useful resource. I and the guys, so the founders of the Viva Club, essentially Toby, Catherine, Hannah, and myself, we do a couple of things, and one of those is a YouTube channel called Free Anaesthetic Tutorials. If you haven't seen them already, there are a few tutorials. Some of them are 5 minutes, some of them are a bit longer. They're focused on some exam-specific topics, and they may well be useful if you're looking for some passive resources. And again, we've done our videos. We've also put the audio onto places like Spotify or Apple Podcasts and a few others. I've put you a link there, but if you're in the car and you're driving, it might be something to have a little look at. Another really cool project is this Northwest Saved Anaesthesia project. They have put tens, if not more, of key exam topics into essentially videos, which are really useful. It'd be worth having a little look. In terms of exam questions, so the blue/maroon college textbooks, I'm sure you've seen them. If you're not really sure what I'm talking about, again, just give me a text and I can clarify that with you. I particularly liked Basic Physiology for Anaesthetists by Chambers. That's split into essentially all of the resources are split by exam question. So if you're looking for a source of exam questions, just look at the titles of the chapters. The other things are the blue revision masterpass textbooks. They're often very useful and they have a similar structure to Basic Physiology. The Coventry course website, they sometimes put their past questions on their website, so it's worth checking those. The college have got some introductory guides which are very useful, and some videos as well, which will give you a style of how to ask the questions. frca.co.uk, I've got lots and lots of past papers, and this other website, frca.me, a good list of book recommendations as well. Okay, so that looks like me.